Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. We will give folks a couple of minutes to get logged in here, and we will begin shortly. Again, if you're just joining us, we're giving folks a couple of minutes to get logged in here, and we will begin shortly. Again, glad to have you with us this afternoon. We're just giving everybody a couple of minutes to get logged in here, and we will begin in just a couple of minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Once again, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Software Commercial Off-the-Shelf and Related Services RFO Pre-Bid Conference. This is taking place today, Wednesday, March 1st, 2023 at 1 p.m. Central Time. We are glad to have you a part of the webinar this afternoon. I want to cover a couple of housekeeping items very quickly before we get started. Just a couple of reminders that you can change your audio by switching between the computer or a phone. Reminder that all attendees today are muted, but if you do have questions, please open your Q&A panel and enter your questions in there. Please don't put any questions in the chat. Sometimes those can get lost. So please open the Q&A on the meeting controls and put your questions in there as we go along today. Before we get started, if you would, please raise your hand quickly and let us know that you can hear us clearly and making sure we have a good connection with everybody today. Excellent. We've got some cloudiness here, and sometimes that can play a factor. So good, lots of hands going up. Thank you. And a reminder, the handout of this presentation will be made available through the addendum, as well as a recording to a link that will be uploaded to YouTube. So this presentation will be made available after the webinar today. Okay, next slide. And your speakers for today will include myself. My name is Tom Hay. I'm part of the outreach and training team here at DIR. Vanya Raymakers is the procurement lead for this RFO for software. You will hear from Vanya today. Stephanie Harrison is with us. She is our director of the statewide cooperative procurements for DIR. You will also hear from Marie Cohan. She is the statewide digital accessibility program manager, and Brianna Ballinger is a hub coordinator here at DIR, and she will cover the hub requirements of the RFO. And our agenda today, we're going to cover several areas. We're going to give you an overview of this request for offer. We will cover the contents and the scope of this RFO. We will also cover the evaluation criteria, the term of the contracts, the schedule will be covered for this RFO. We will cover the hub requirements and also the EIR accessibility requirements. We will cover general information that we need to share with all vendors. We will cover the bid stamp vendor information system portal and provide an overview of how to submit to us. We will give a detailed description of the pricing sheet and how that's going to work. We will also cover any mandatory submissions that you need to be aware of. Then we will take a break after we cover all of those before we come back with a question and answer period. So again, we invite you to put your questions into the Q&A box today. And if you have already posed a question previously via email or through the Bidstamp portal, please note that we've already got a record of those questions, so there's no need to repeat those questions if you've already previously asked through another function through DIR. So we will have time then at the end of the webinar to cover all questions, and then we will provide a closing at the end as well. So once again, thank you for joining us today. And with that, I will turn it over to Vanya.
So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome for you all to being here. I congratulate you for your interest on this solicitation, and I am going to do my very best to give you enough information that will help you prepare a successful response to this RFO. This is a very, very big RFO, but I wanted to start out by telling you guys we started this journey together on this RFO solicitation December 22nd. I understand as of this morning, as some of you just joined us, but we have been going on to this solicitation since December 22nd, which means if you miss some stuff, you might want to double check all the documents posted to the ESBD, okay? So the objective today is for us, DIR soliciting for software, commercial off-the-shelf, and related services. Since January, when we met for the marketing engagement, we added the solicitation additional VAR, value-added software products for resellers for software. This might cause a little confusion, and for those of you asking a lot of questions about the volume license program and how this is going to play out with this solicitation, I promise you all of your questions will be answered through this presentation. Now, one of the things I like you to know is that if you have already asked me a question via email or through the bid stamp system, those questions have been documented and they will be answered, most of them today in the seminar during the presentation. So please don't ask them again so that we won't have any duplications under our question section of this presentation. So resoliciting multiple RFOs, we discussed that in the marketing plan, and I'm going to go over that with you. And we are going to award multiple contracts from this RFO because we have over 800 different brands, and DIR wants to make sure we continue to have these brands under contract. Next slide. All right. So here's an overview of our historical sales. One of the questions that was asked is, can I provide you guys with specific brand software individual sales report? No. This is the entire software. I think we missed a slide, guys. Maybe it's after this one, not sure. There's a slide that needs to have all 5 RFOs listed. But let's see, maybe it got moved. Okay, anyway. So right here, as you can see, the total is in billions. The software is a very large sales for DIR. Out of the 3 billions that the cooperative contract does in sales, 1.75 is for the software. And that includes all the VAR service, all the VAR software as well. If you want individual brands detailed reports, you can use the DIR Open Records portal and request a report at your leisure. We just don't guarantee that you're going to get it in time, or, you know, you got to follow those rules and regulations, but I cannot provide that to you. Next slide. So let's talk about the RFO contents. What we have and what you should be downloaded, that you should have downloaded from the ESBD. Again, ESBD is the only place where you can get these documents. Bidstamp does not provide them. DIR does not provide them. These are very large packages that can only be downloaded from the ESBD. If you have problems downloading documents from the ESBD, please contact the controller's office and they'll be glad to help you. DIR doesn't have any way to help you with that. We can run you through it, change your search engine from Google and see what else you can do, but we really can't technically help you with the ESBD, okay? So you got your Exhibit A, that's your respondent information. You should have a document, Exhibit A1, that's your exceptions. Exhibit A1, please disregard all the things in the RFO that says this form is supposed to be a spreadsheet. Excel spreadsheet. It is not. It is a Word document because I want you guys to be able to do the track changes so that it makes it easier for our legal to review your exceptions. And keep in mind, we like not to have a lot of exceptions. Exhibit B, it's your history and experience. Please really pay attention to this form because it is your experience selling software. So do not write down things about your company history with cloud broker or other types of things that has nothing to do with software, reselling software, and the software selling. That's what we're looking for, okay? Contract Exhibit C, contract management support. We're going to talk a lot about that later. Exhibit D, the hub plan. You're going to get more of that later on from the hub folks. And then Exhibit E is your VPAT for the COTS. You're going to talk about that in accessibility. Exhibit F is your respondent release of liability. We're going to talk a lot about that. Next step. Next slide. So we got your EDGA certification, your PDAA, your Exhibit I, certification of premises. Exhibit J, your reference forms. Exhibit K. K might not apply to everybody, but the accessibility folks will let you know when it applies to you. And then I also provided you guys with some definitions for some of the terms of the RFO. So this is the documents for your RFO under package 1. So if you go into ESPD, you're going to download a zip file that's package 1. It will have all of these documents in that zip file. Next slide. Package 2 is your itemized pricing sheet. The reason that was by itself is because that's a pretty big file. So, and we're going to talk a lot about this. So please hold your questions regarding that, because the itemized pricing sheet has a lot of changes and we will go through each tab very individually to help you. Now, package number 3 has 3 documents: a sample contract, or terms and conditions that you need to review to make sure you don't take any exceptions. And we also have a service agreement template that is just a template. You don't have to provide it back to us. You don't have to worry about it. It's just something that can be useful if you need it, okay, for your software that you're presenting or for the services that you're going to respond to. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about Exhibit A, okay? During the Exhibit A, I'm gonna answer a few of the questions that you guys ask about Exhibit A. So, so just remember that under the section where you have to give your canceled contracts, we want all of them. Doesn't matter how it was canceled, why it was canceled, it needs all of them. That's a very important section that you need to fill out on Exhibit A. Exhibit A also needs to be signed. No electronic, no typed signature, no emails attached as a signature. You have to print the appendix Exhibit A. You have to sign it, and you have to scan it, and you have to attach it to bid stamp. That is a very important step, okay? Exhibit 1 exceptions. We talked about that. There are several questions that currently been asked regarding intellectual property, work product, and several others like that. There is no answers to that as an overall picture. You have to list that under the exceptions form and discuss your individual case when you make it to the negotiation phase, okay? History and experience. A lot of people wants to know about sections on this document. Mainly thing you need to remember here is that your history of your company is about your company, how long it's been in business, not how long the person that owns that company been selling software. You can probably put that under experience, but not under history. So when was your company founded? When, how long you been in business? How long you've been a reseller for COTS software? Those are the important history that we need. And then your experience, you can take in consideration all of your experience, but doesn't make it part of your history because that can be confusing, okay? Other things, let me see that we talked about Exhibit B. The disclosure section on Exhibit A. There's a question about, do we have to disclose in terms? Or so when it comes to disclosure and ethics and any of these things that has to do, hold on for a second, with you have to disclose everybody, no matter what. So just when in doubt, disclose the person. If it's a conflict of interest, if it's not, if you're in doubt, it's better to disclose her than not to, okay? So just remember that. Next slide. So now we're going to talk a lot about the marketing plan. We have lots of questions about this. What is the market? Different market segments. Well, DIR market segment is government. And then we have local government, we have cities, we have schools, we have lots of university, K through 12. If you go into the DIR page, DIR website under customer, we have a whole section with a list of our customers and what their market segment are and how they're divided. So you should be able to find your answers there. Another thing that I ask a lot of questions about the support team. Well, under the marketing plan, you have to disclose two things. You have to make sure that you provide DIR with a marketing strategy plan, not a dream, not what you think, but a real plan that we can look at it and say, you're serious about promoting this contract to our customers correctly. And you're going to have to provide a support section with real people. You got to have a support team to manage this contract, okay? Different size of contracts require different size of teams. So you need to know how much you're responding, how many brands you're selling, how much business you're planning to have. That determines the amount of people you need to support the contract. So just a little tip for all of you. One of the things our customers on our customer engagement meeting is that they need better support and we need to be looking at your support plan. So make sure that you are very clear when you're writing your Exhibit C that we see that support plan in action items, not in maybes, but real people, real designations, really determined to provide a support plan for this contract, okay? The hub and the VPET is going to be checked. We're going to talk about it later on the presentation, but I want to cover a few more questions. Question 9 on the Exhibit C, a lot of people ask that question, and that is because it's just saying that because we're looking at your support plan, if your company already have a service level agreement that shows and demonstrates your commitment to supporting customers, you can add that as an attachment to answer question 9. All the items that are listed under it are just simple things that we're looking for in a service level agreement, in a support plan. Doesn't mean you gotta have it, doesn't mean you gotta answer for every one of them. That is just a list of samples of things that might be looked at when you are preparing a support plan. But a service level agreement can be attached to it, or you can just say NA, you don't have one. It is not something that is going to be any problem, okay? Next slide. So response, release of liability. So you need this, it's very important, especially for canceled contracts and also for references. If you're going to give people's names and your references needs to let us know that it's okay for us to use those references during the evaluation. So you got to have those release of liability for your references, especially your canceled contracts, okay? If we're going to be talking to people and doing all of that. Exhibit G and H will be covered later on. Next slide. All right, certification of premises customer service. This form is only required if you are going to propose services to be at our customer locations, on the ground, boots on the ground. Now, a lot of people don't want to pay auto insurance requirements for this kind of service because there people are doing everything these days electronically. So you can fill out this form and say, nope, we're not going to have any boots in the ground and no state offices, no state, we're going to do everything electronic. Therefore, we can be exempt from the auto insurance requirement. But most people, if you are going to have people going to our offices, this form does not apply to you. You will have to provide insurance, and those will be determined at negotiation stage. Vendor references. Okay, guys, this is a big one. Lots of questions about this form. First, I am updating the form to take away the reference of web development. Any of you could have changed this to reflect on the sample section where it talks about what is the reference for what project. You could have put down software installation, software configuration, software sales, or what kind of software project you had. You could change the form yourself before sending it to your reference folks. I will update the form and put it back out there. But if you already changed the form and you already send them out, you don't need to worry about it, okay? Also, reference, minimum of 3. It doesn't matter if you have 5, 6, or 7. As long as we get 3, we're good, okay? Another question about references that we have a lot is our customers don't want to send the references in writing. They want a DIR to call them. They want to give verbal references. Okay, so here's the deal. The customer will fill out the form with their name and their phone number and give DIR permission to call them by filling out the form and saying, we prefer to get a phone call. And DIR then put it through the RFO email, follow the directions that they're supposed to be done. Vendors cannot fill out these forms for their customers, because if the customers doesn't give us permission to call them, we should not be calling them. So this is answering a lot of your questions in the bid stamp right now, okay? So the customers can request that we call them for the references, and we can. We're not gonna promise we're gonna do every single one, because remember, you're dealing with 3, I'm dealing with 300, 400, maybe even 1,000. So we will call them if they request it, but they have to send it through the email, through the RFO email box. And we will then combine and see who we're gonna call and who are not at a later date at DIR discretion, okay? But that's how you're gonna handle those type of things. Otherwise, minimum of 3, doesn't matter the dollar amount. Somebody says, oh, if my project is a lot more money, can I get more points on the evaluation? No. The experience, vendor reference are combined scores with Exhibit B on the company overall experience. So if you put a dollar amount on your reference, that's great, but it's not going to affect the evaluation overall. It's your reference that will, okay? Exhibit K is going to be taking care of it next. So now we're going to talk about the scope, okay? So this is a big one, mainly because we are combining a lot of RFOs here, and it's a little confusing. We have several customers, several vendors calling me and saying, well, if I have this, what happened if I have that? Okay, so I'm going to put this in a very simple way for you guys, and it's like this. DIR is going to need all kinds of software. So if you currently have a case management, if you are a value added, if you have a software contract, there are 3 contracts. Well, those contracts are going to expire. You must respond to this solicitation, and you will get 1 contract to replace all 3. Okay? If you sell software, any software, you are part of this solicitation. It doesn't matter, as long as it's COTS and you're not developing anything, it fits in this RFO. But the most number 1 question I've been asked is, how many contracts am I going to get awarded? 1. You're going to bid for all of this, and we're going to look at your response and create a contract after we go into negotiations. One vendor, one response, one evaluation, one contract. Okay, next slide. All right, so we talked a lot about the software, commercial off the shelf. So what are the restrictions for this RFO? None. As long as the software exists, as long as the software is ready to use, it's off the shelf, no matter the category, no matter the functionality, it can be proposed under this RFO. Okay, the list that DIR provided in the RFO is what we're looking for. It's not all inclusive, but gives you guys a good example of what we're looking for. Okay, so you guys are responsible to make sure the products and services that you're going to propose under this RFO meets our scope. The scope is simple: commercial off the shelf, ready to use software. Can't go wrong with that, right? All right, next. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about VAR. Yes, we got lots of questions about VAR. So basically, in a nutshell, DIR has entered into what we call a volume licensing agreement for all the DIR customers across the state of Texas with these three manufacturers: Adobe, Microsoft, and Novell. We do not have volume license agreements with any other manufacturer at this time. These are the volume added resellers. If you are a certified volume added reseller for any of these manufacturers, you know what this means. You know what you need to do to respond to this RFO. We will go through it in detail, but because you are responding to software, all types, all kinds, under one section of the RFO, you can also respond to the VAR on the next section of the RFO, all inclusive. However, you cannot do a VAR response if you are not a volume added reseller for these manufacturers, because we will validate these licenses with these resellers. And you have to know what that is as we progress through this RFO in order to respond. So if you are asking questions about this program, how it works, or what do I need to do, or how do I get in, or this, then you are not part of this group of authorized volume license resellers. You should know what this is in order for you to bid on this portion. This is a big portion of this RFO. It is new since January, so it got people a little confused. But it's very important that you understand there are things that I cannot teach you, that I cannot give you in order for you to participate in this portion. You should already know these things, okay? And we're gonna talk in very detail inside package 2 for the pricing, how you're going to respond to this in very detail and how it changes from regular. So one of the things I told people is this: if you are an Adobe, Microsoft, and Novell regular reseller, you can respond to this RFO under the regular software section, not the VAR, and sell these products for different customers that are not part of our volume program, which we have both, okay? So the question is, if you're asking too many questions about the VAR program, chances are your company is not part of it yet. That doesn't mean you can be, but DIR cannot do that for you. You should already be there if you're going to respond to this RFO, okay? Next slide. All right, out of scope. This is simple. We have taken out a lot of the exclusions. I don't know if you're been with DIR a while, you know that we used to have a lot of exclusion of products under this RFO. You couldn't bid IBM, you couldn't bid Cisco, you couldn't bid a whole bunch of stuff. All of those exclusions are off the table. So basically, you all can bid anything, even the kitchen sink, if it's a software that I can be ready to use, okay? So I'm laughing, I hope you are too. But the one thing you cannot do is customer application development. If your software is not ready to use and is not COTS and it requires any kind of code changes for development, you cannot bid that product, okay? You cannot bid any product that needs to be customized. That means that core code of a product has to be changed. You can bid any product that can be configured to a specific customer set, but you cannot use customization under this RFO. Okay, so again, all the software must be ready to use and with slides configuration. Okay, you cannot sell hardware with this. You cannot bid hardware by itself. We do have an option that you can do a turnkey solution for our customers where you include all the pieces. But that is an exception to the game. You cannot just sell soft hardware under this contract at all. Okay. Now, another thing you need to understand is that recently the state of Texas have a list of prohibit software applications and developers in our website. It's part of the legislator, it's part of a bunch of other stuff. So this link will show you that list. So don't bid any of these either, okay? These prohibit items cannot be awarded. So if you respond with them, I won't be able to do anything with them. So make sure you check that list, okay? So very simple, everything goes except development, customization, hardware alone, and any of the products that are listed under the prohibit software. Next slide. All right, let's talk about services. We have lots of questions about services. So software is easy. Any brand of software out there has services. You install, you configure, you maintain, you do technical support, you provide project management, license management, you do all kinds of different services. One of the things that people ask is, if I only do the service part, but I don't resell the product, can I be part of this RFO? Yes, you can be a subcontractor to provide service to an authorized reseller, but you cannot bid just for software services if you're not a software reseller under this RFO. We're not looking for technical services alone. The related services is for all software. So another thing, a question has been asked of me is, well, but if a customer bought something from somebody and that company no longer can maintain the software, how do they can get the services? Well, they can get the services from any awarded contract under this RFO, regardless where they bought the software. Okay, now, VAR services. Now, this is important, guys, and I need you to pay attention and take notes, okay? There are a lot of added services to the VAR program. We have a lot of things that a VAR authorized reseller for the volume program has to do as added value services, okay? So there's a lot more services you're gonna provide outside of implementation, installation, configuration. And so you need to be aware of that. And you need to make sure you understand 2.4.1 of the RFO instructions. Like I said, if you are a volume reseller for any of Microsoft, Adobe, or Novell, you are very familiar with these services that you need to be providing, and you need to respond to the RFO and list all of those services. Next slide. All right, y'all give me a minute. I have to get my throat. What's out of scope of this RFO? Very little, but here it is. Service only, we talked about it. Can't do that. Custom application development, can't do that. Deliverables-based information technology service, can't do that. Infrastructure as a service, nope. Cloud broke service, no. Cloud assessment service, no. And all the professional and consulting service as defined on the Texas Government Code. And y'all should be very familiar with this because, you know, engineering, lawyers, there's a list of them. So you got to make sure you read them and make sure you understand what these consulting services are defined so that you don't bid any of those services under this RFO. Next, evaluation criteria. So we got asked several questions about evaluation criteria. So we're going to talk about first the pass and fail. That's an easy one, guys. Number one, Exhibit A. If it's not fully completed and signed, everything else you did is gone. I can't not accept your response. So please, pretty please, Exhibit A, full and signed. That is a legal requirement of the procurement law. You have to have that form filled out and you have to sign it. Okay, so remember that. Also, PDAA self-assessment, you guys going to get a lot of more information later, but keep in mind, that's a pass or fail if you don't have it. Hub subcontracting plan, same thing. Completed and signed, pass and fail. If you don't have these things, there's no sense on having anything else. Okay, now, financial review is also a pass or fail. And one of the things people ask is, how does this work? Well, one of the things we do, we look at the Duns and Bradstreet report. There's a specific number that our finance department determines, and they will look at it. One of the things that I noticed that I'm going to give you as experience, Dun and Bradstreet, make sure that the address you provide in Exhibit A for your corporate office is the same address that the Duns and Bradstreet report shows. Okay, very, very important on that section. Next slide. All right, so evaluation of responses after you pass administrative review, all of the financial review, then we'll come to this point. You make it to this section. The first thing we're going to evaluate is Exhibit B and Exhibit C. And package number 2, your pricing sheet is the highest score. 40% of your score is going to be based on this package. That's why I'm going to cover it very slow and very detailed today. Okay, next. Next slide. All right, let's cover the contract. Lots of changes. One of the changes that people keep asking me question is, can DIR have longer term contracts? Because customers might buy software that requires a 10, 15-year license. And this is the regulatory thing that the law, procurement law, okay? There are many ways a contract that a customer has can be continued. These contracts that we award are a 5-year term, but because software is such a big and long-term solicitation, we have 2 optional renewal terms, optional extension. So 2 years plus 2 1-year renewals plus 2 optional extension renewals. And all renewal terms are determined and only approved by DIR at its own discretion. There's are too many things that the contractors have to follow under your contract management section and your responsibilities in order for a contract to be renewed, okay? Now, all the contracts have an option to extend. Under the sample contract on package 3, you wanna read that contract document section 2.10. It will give you the understanding of how things are extended and how the contracts are renewed, okay? But again, DIR contracts are for 5 years. This one will have the option of 1 extra year because of the high for the long term of the solicitation process, okay? Next. Next slide. Okay, So this is a big one. The reason this is here is one, this have changed as a requirement from past RFOs, and that's because things are changing. Technology is changing, and our contracts requirements are changing. So is our customers. And each contract that is awarded, each contractor will be required to create an internet web page. You're going to have a web page for your contract for our customers to access. Okay. It will have your price list or a mechanism to obtain that price. And these are details that we're going to teach you after negotiations, how to put it on, how to do this, and what are the things that you can and cannot do. But these are the requirements you need to be aware of, okay? One of the new things are the tax rep certified cloud products. So if you're going to provide SaaS products, any kind of cloud products that are going to be accessed, you're going to have this. So be aware of what you are proposing and what the requirements, because you're going to have to post this on your website or your DIR contract website. You're also going to have to post software license agreements and service level agreements. Okay, those are new requirements only for the software contracts. Next slide. Now we're going to cover the RFO schedule. So this is going to be on the addendum 1 because we've made a couple changes. One of the changes is I have included the deadline for us to post the very last addendum for question and answers. So we're going to be answering questions throughout this process. Okay, you guys going to get your first Q&A posted shortly after this conference. On addendum 2, addendum 1 is going to cover the slides, the presentation link, and a couple forms that got changed. Then addendum 2, later on, it will cover the first questions asked, and then we will do another addendum as more questions come in. But final date for all addendums is going to be March 21st. Once that date comes, there's no more questions. And after that, we will post one last addendum before April 3rd. Okay. The deadline for this RFO is still April 28th. It hasn't changed, guys. We are on a tight schedule. So we need to make sure that we all understand that date does not change. Okay. Evaluations, negotiation, and awards. Those are all approximate and subject to volume. I got some vendors of you that submitted a question to me that says, what if I have a customer that needs something? We're working on a great deal, but I can't do anything until my contract is awarded. Well, I cannot predict the future. So you have to respond. We have to evaluate. We have to negotiate, and then you get a contract. And none of that can be based on a timeline. And I cannot expedite or move anybody ahead of schedule. I have to follow the procurement law. So everything is going to be done according to the schedule. However, if I get a lot of responses and my team cannot complete all the evaluation, these dates might vary. I just want you to be aware of that. Okay, next. All right, now I'm going to pass it over to Brianna, and she's going to cover the hub requirements for this RFO. And thanks her so much for helping. And I'm going to rest my voice for a little bit. Take it over,
Hello, everyone.
Brianna.
My name is Brianna Ballinger. Today, I am going to cover the hub subcontracting plan. Next slide, please. All vendors will complete a hub subcontracting plan, or HSP. We have included the link here for the most current approved copy of the HSP. Please do not modify this document. It is an editable copy. Next slide. All respondents are required to submit an HSP. Failure to submit a completed HSP will cause your response to be rejected. This is a pass or fail item. There are 3 ways to complete the HSP. You will self-perform, meet or exceed the hub goal, and complete method A, or not meet the hub goal and complete method B. Next slide, please. If your proposed subcontracting meets or exceeds the 21.1 hub goal, you will complete method A. Be sure to identify all hub and non-hub vendors that you will be subcontracting with. Include the anticipated dollar amounts and the expected percentages. So you will complete section 1, 2, 4, and method A. Don't forget to sign and date your HSP in section 4. Next slide, please. If you are going to subcontract below the hub goal, you will complete method B. Be sure to solicitate to a minimum of 3 hub certified companies and 2 minority trade organizations. You must allow them 7 working days to respond to you prior to the due date of the RFO. Include your outreach to these entities via email, fax, however you reach out to them with your HSP. So you will complete section 1, 2, 4, and method B. Don't forget to include approximate dollar amounts and percentages. Next slide, please. If you will be self-performing, you will complete section 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you are self-performing justification, in your self-performing justification, you will identify how your company will fulfill this contract with its own staff, equipment, resources, or anything else. Please do not say that you will be subcontracting in the future or if you would need to. Tell us how you will self-perform. Next slide, please. Please remember that the HSP is a pass or fail item. We will provide a complimentary review of your HSP prior to the due date. We have included the email address here for you. You must contact us no later than 10 days prior to the due date of the RFO. Your hub department is here to assist you in completing the HSP correctly. Thank you, and I will turn it over to Marie.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marie Cohan. I am the statewide Digital Accessibility Program Administrator. I'm going to talk to you today about electronic and information resources accessibility forms. I will refer to electronic and information resources as EIR throughout this presentation. Next slide, please. So under Texas Government Code, Chapter 2054, DIR has the authority to implement rules around EIR accessibility. Those rules are TAC 206 and TAC 213. TAC 206 is related to websites and TAC 213 is related to electronic and information resources. We also follow industry standards like the World Wide Web Consortium, WCAG 2.0 AA. All vendors must provide the requested accessibility documentation in their responses. Next slide, please. The documentation that we look for specific to this RFO will be an accessibility conformance report and a policy-driven adoption for accessibility. The accessibility conformance report is a completed VPAT. VPATs are completed on products and they are based on how that product tested against WCAG success criteria. And again, DIR looks for WCAG's 2.0 AA. So once the VPAT is completed for a particular product, it becomes an accessibility conformance report, and that is what we'll look for each product. The policy-driven adoption for accessibility is an organization self-assessment on where they're at in their accessibility journey. This is not attached to any product or service. This is specific to the organization. All organizations must complete the policy-driven adoption for accessibility. Missing PDAA could result in disqualification. Next slide, please. So again, the VPAT is a template. You can be found on the Information Technology Council's website, and we'll provide that information for you. And a template will also be in your packet. The VPAT 2.3 or higher is requested. Once it's completed, it is considered an accessibility conformance report. If your product has not changed but since 2020, April 18th of 2020, you can submit a lower version of the VPAT. The VPAT should be completed by people with relevant knowledge of the product. It can be completed by anyone, but ideally it is completed by someone who knows how the product tested against the WCAG success criteria. Resellers can request VPATs or ACRs from the manufacturer, and it's based on testing. Next slide, please. And I did talk about this. The VPAT is a template. Once it is completed and the information on how the product tested against WCAG success criteria, it becomes an accessibility conformance report, and that is what you will submit in your response. And I see a notation here for high number of VPAT or ACRs that will be submitted to DIR. They can be submitted using a specific RFO email address that's listed here. Next slide, please. The policy-driven adoption for accessibility, or PDAA, it assesses the maturity of the accessibility programs at the organizational level. So what we are looking for is, how does this organization incorporate accessibility into its culture and policies and practices? There is a spreadsheet attached to the packet that will be completed, and it will give a final score at the bottom. Vendors can use the results of this PDAA as a roadmap for implementing accessibility practices within the organization. And DIR also has an accessibility maturity matrix on our website. What we're looking for are organizations that have good accessibility practices in software development lifecycle, in HR practices, procurement practices, IT practices. We look for organizations that provide training for their staff, and they have corrective action plans in place in case there are any issues around accessibility. And you can use the attached or provided Excel form. That is what you'll complete and submit with your response. Next slide, please. These are some resources that will be helpful for you. The EIR accessibility website has additional pages. There is a section for vendors and around procurement. The ITIC website will have the VPAT template, but one should be provided in your packet. The VADSER template is listed here, and that is for any type of development services. That is a separate questionnaire that DIR provides. The PDAA template is here as well. This is on our website, and it should be attached to your packet. And then I've provided some additional procurement information for vendors. Next slide, please. DIR is rolling out a new program because we want our vendors to be successful, especially with regard to accessibility. We are offering training for all vendors at no additional cost. We have 4 specific training courses, and you can request access to the training environment by emailing statewide accessibility@dir.texas.gov. And any vendor or multiple people within the vendor organization can sign up for this training. Next slide, please. If you have any questions or need additional information related to accessibility, you can contact me at the email address listed here. If you do contact me specific to this RFO, please also copy Vanya as well. And I will now turn it over to Vanya. Thank you so much.
So now we're going to cover, excuse me, we're going to cover some general information about the RFO. The first thing, sorry guys, I've been fighting my voice all week, and I'm lucky I'm lasting this long. So one of the things that we need to cover is that your questions after this webinar needs to go through Bidstamp. Okay, all the questions answered today are unofficial until posted on the ESBD. You must check the ESBD for often, for updates, for addendums, because DIR is not responsible to keep you updated to what's going on. And this RFO is very big, so there will be changes throughout the process. So you must check the ESBD daily, okay? And make sure that things are still, that you are up to date with all the addendums that you have to sign and respond and provided with your response, okay? So again, all of your questions must be submitted through Bidstamp after today. Next. So things that can disqualify your offer, okay? Failure to sign Exhibit A. Failure to complete your DUNS number for the financial review. Failure to complete your hub report. Complete your hub report. Failure to submit your pricing list. Failure to submit your policy-driven accessibility. And failure to submit before the due date. So April 28th is the cutoff date. Not a minute later, not a minute before. Okay, guys, it's that date, that time. All responses must be submitted through the BidStamp portal. Next slide. So it's very important that you guys don't try to contact anybody else in the DIR employees, in IT, in security, anybody. All correspondence for this RFO needs to go through me, through my email. And if I am not available, I will let you know who is the person to talk to if I'm not available, but I should be available to answer your questions. So don't contact anybody else but me. You can go and ask Hub to review your Hub plan like they said they would and CC me. You can go and ask Marie for training and help on accessibility and CC me. But those are the only two exceptions. Everything else, you come to me. Okay, thanks. Next slide. So here's my information. Also my boss, Stephanie Harrison. She will help you with connecting to BidStamp with any problems you might have with BidStamp. The Hub subcontracting plan, dirhub@dir.tex.gov, or you can contact Teresa. These are people that you can contact to get assistance. Next slide. So now I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie. I'm not sure if she's online or not to do the Hub plan, the BidStamp presentation. Steph, are you on?
No, Vanya, unfortunately, Stephanie is not able to log in. So this
All
is
right.
Tom. I'm going to step in and take care of handling the BidStamp portion of the presentation today. So a couple of things to keep in mind is that any respondent responding to this RFO must submit their response through the BidStamp Vendor Information System, or the VIS. And before you can access the BidStamp portal for functionality, you will be required to have login credentials to access a new or existing account. Any vendor that will access the BidStamp portal via the link and enter their access credentials through that BidStamp portal. If a vendor does not yet have any login credentials, then you will need to request one by clicking on the "Are you a vendor and need to request an account" button that's located on the login page. And we've also included a link here that you can view a video on how to set up your BidStamp account. That is available on the DIR website. So a couple of things to keep in mind is that if you have previously created a BidStamp account, you can use that same account. But if you have not previously created a BidStamp account, or maybe your account information has changed, maybe an email has changed or your business name has changed, you will need to create a new account. And since it's not an automatic approval process, you're going to have to allow at least 2 business days on your account to be approved. So keep that in mind. So that means you can't wait until the last day responses are due, to set up your BidStamp account. You'll need to take care of that as soon as you possibly can. And then so you'll need to plan and make sure that you've received your login credentials prior to the due date for the RFO. If you have not received your BidStamp login credentials, you can contact the point of contact listed in this RFO and in the documents. Again, the link on this slide will take you to a video on how to set up your BidStamp account. We'll kind of skip over that, and you can just kind of go out and view that at your leisure. Okay, next slide. Persons with disabilities or who seek accommodation under the Americans with the Disabilities Act, ADA, in responding to the solicitation, you may contact DIR at the point of contact in section 3.1 of the solicitation. Please allow at least 5 business days for response. Okay, next. So when you go to dir.texas.gov, which is the homepage on the DIR website, Most of the information that you will need is under the Selling Through DIR box located on the right side of the page. And once you click on that Selling Through DIR box, you will be taken to the page that talks about vendor information. So on the next slide, once you click on that Selling Through DIR box, you will be taken to this page, and you can click on the Schedule of Solicitation Opportunities page. And then once you are clicked on that Schedule of Solicitation Opportunities page, if you scroll down a little bit, you will see the bid stamp application box. And this is where you can request credentials, or you can log into your bid stamp portal. We've also, on that previous slide, we've also included the link to that Schedule of Solicitation Opportunities page. Okay, so once you have clicked on that, you will be taken to this screen here, and this is where you can submit and manage your RFO responses in the bid stamp portal itself. Reminder here that the portal can allow up to 5 users, but you must use the login credentials that you received after you set up your bid stamp account in order to log in. And again, on this screen, you can also, if you see, are you a vendor and need to request an account, you can request credentials here on this bid stamp screen as well. So once you have logged in, let's say your account is now enabled, the vendor will submit and manage your RFO responses from the vendor information system portal. In order to submit a response, you will click on the Open Solicitations box. And once you click on that box, you'll be taken to the next screenshot, and you will see a list of, oh my goodness, okay, so there we go. Once you click on Open Solicitations, you will see a listing of all the current open solicitations that DIR has posted for vendor responses. The one you'll want to click on, and the screenshot here is an example of a listing, but the one you'll want to click on for this specific RFO is the one that you will see that's DIR CPO TMP, actually 570. That will need to be corrected in an addendum volume. This is actually 570. That's of the solicitation that you want to respond to. And then you will be navigated to the RFO number on the detail page. And once you click on that, you will see that when you click on that solicitation, you'll see very pertinent information like the actual posting date, the date that it started. You will see the questions deadline date, the deadline date to submit questions. You'll see when the vendor responses are due, the pre-bid conference date, and other pertinent information. So pay attention to the information located in this RFO detail box. Again, that has, remember that all times are central time. So allow yourself enough time for any technical issues, because once the date and time has passed, BidStamp will no longer allow you to submit your responses, even if you are in the middle of submitting the response. So please plan accordingly. Once that submission date deadline comes due, if you're in the middle of submitting, it will not let you continue. It will lock you out. So make sure that you have your responses submitted before the due date. You will also notice on this screen that there are several gray boxes at the top of the screen that say respond to solicitation, ask a question, subscribe to solicitation, and also view solicitation documents. So if you go to the next slide, we're going to talk through what those boxes actually stand for and how you can utilize those when responding. So that first button that says respond to a solicitation, or it may say view response if you've already started one, that's where you can create a new response or view a response that is already in progress, that you've already started working on. So if, like I said, if a response has already been created or started, that button is going to read view response. So that will allow you then to resume, working on anything you've got in progress on an existing RFO. The Ask a Question button, that is used to submit a question to be reviewed by a DIR resource. Remember, questions can be submitted up until the question submission deadline date that is indicated in the RFO document and on the detail page. Also, you can subscribe to solicitations. That means that if you would like to receive addendum notifications, You can subscribe to solicitations that you are interested in or working on. So in order to subscribe to the solicitation, you must select the subscribe to solicitation button and have enabled your contact to receive notifications. So keep that in mind if you're going to subscribe. And also you can view solicitation documents. You can navigate to the ESBD posting for the solicitation and view the solicitation documents there. So remember, the ESBD is the official location for all response materials for this RFO. So remember to check the ESBD for addendums to the RFO posting throughout that open solicitation process. Okay, and on the next slide, a couple of things to remember as you are working through actually submitting your RFO responses. The delete button, you will see that located on the bid stamp screen as well. This will delete all information that's been uploaded and the response record before the response has been submitted. So remember, if you're submitting a response to DIR and you hit that delete button, we cannot get it back. That means that it is gone. You're going to have to start over if you do happen to hit that delete button. So once that response is submitted, you can either go in and view it or you can withdraw it as well. And that withdraw button will appear once you submit that solicitation to us. The submit button, that submits the response record and all associated information. And there is information in the vendor guide section 5.7 to reference if you would like. If you need to ask a question, questions can be submitted up until the question submission deadline date that is indicated in the RFO document on the detail page. Again, you can reference the guide for section 5.6 for additional information. You can also create pricing form in the response button here, and that's used to submit your pricing information for your response. Vanya is also going to talk a little bit more about the pricing form here in just a minute. Also, the new RFO response documents. This is where, upload is required for files as indicated in the RFO posted on the ESBD. So this is where you will find documents and upload documents to this section as well. You will also find vendor reference forms here. So if you need to submit a new vendor references email address, you can opt to send that out for a vendor reference, and you can log those in here in the vendor reference sections as well. So it is basically highly recommended that you name the required response documents exactly the same as what they're named in the RFO, so you don't maybe miss that chance of misloading a document or missing a required document. It's also recommended that you load your documents in the format that they were provided as exhibits in the RFO. For example, if it's a Word document, upload it as a Word doc. Don't make it a PDF and upload it. If it's an Excel doc, upload it as an Excel doc, because many times converting those documents to a PDF, that may truncate the document, and that could leave off important information that is needed in your response to be considered complete. So just keep those things in mind as you are uploading documents. So in addition, if you're using the electronic signature function, please be sure that there's a valid electronic signature and not just a typed name in the signature field. If you're not able to include a valid or verified electronic signature on the pages where that's required, you may need to print that page, ink sign it, and then upload a copy to the Bidstamp portal. So again, just keep those ideas in mind and keep those things in mind as you are uploading documents and working through the Bidstamp portal. And with that, I believe I will turn it over to Vanya to talk about the itemized pricing sheet.
All right, everybody. Just take a piece of paper and take some notes, because we're going to go through this. And if I cannot answer all your questions at this time, I will be sure to answer them later. But please just know that this is not as complicated as it sounds. We made it so that we can detail this thing for you very easily, okay? So the itemized pricing sheet is a spreadsheet. You're going to use it based on the information tabs that is attached. This document has been updated, revised, and it will be part of Addendum 1 So in case you had some issues with the spreadsheet, it is being resent to you differently, okay? So first of all, let's start with tab 1, the product detail. And then we're gonna use it to create, I do not want you to create tabs for brand. So remember, you are gonna fill out one of these forms. I am going to manipulate 200 of them. So please do not change the form. Do not change the formulas. Do not create brand tabs. Do not create new formulas into the spreadsheet because it will make my job harder, okay? Make sure to copy and paste the formula as you add lines and double check that the formulas are working, okay? Do not change the spreadsheet format, okay? Make sure that you carry the brand name and average discount to tab 2 in order to facilitate the data entry into Bitstamp that we're going to talk about here today. Okay, the tab 2 product Bitstamp brand average discount. This is the only thing you're going to enter into Bitstamp. But all the itemized pricing sheet, all the tabs are part of the evaluation. They all need to be filled out. They all need to be clear, and it needs to be recent pricing, recent products. Next step, next slide. So we're going to talk about tab 1, okay? If you're in tab 1, this is your product detail. This is what you are going to provide us to respond. It's what you want to sell to our customers. What is your software brand? What is that software brand function? In what category does that fall? There's only 3. It's either SaaS, software, or related services, right? The product description, this is where you're going to put in the name of the product, the product number. Why do I ask for this information in this detail? It's because I have to do my due diligence, and I have to make sure that all these things are real, that you're not just putting fantasy numbers over here. Okay, my job is to verify these products and your pricing and all of this information, and to make sure that all the discounts average that are inserted into Bitstamp are correct. I have to do that, and you need to prepare this form in a way that makes it easier for me to do the job I have to do. Okay, there may be 200 of you, there's only one of me. So if you do this and you take the time to do it right, it will make all of our jobs easier, and the evaluation goes a lot faster, right? So over here, you're going to create on the spreadsheet, you're going to create lines for every line of product that you're selling. Yes, some of you got hundreds and hundreds of software products. So let me give you a little bit of hints, okay? If you have a software product, you do not need to list every single package, okay? You can list the brand of the software, the main product of that software. You don't need to list version 1, version 2, version 3. List the master, the price, as long as the discounts for the brand are the same, we got covered. And if you have a software that progresses in price discount based on, for example, somebody says, well, I have a SaaS product, and if you have 100 to 1,500 is one price, and if you have 2,000 to 500,000 is another price. All right, list the master product here and all the other volume package in tab 4 for the volume pricing, okay? Also, when you list your software brands, list the products. And if they're all different discounts, then you got to list every product that has a different discount so that you can have a brand average. If the brand has a discount for everything, just list the main products, because DIR is looking for the functions of the software. We want to make sure that we have enough software under contract to fulfill our customers' requirements. This form is simple. It takes work to do, Try not to copy and paste. Try not to download your catalog into a spreadsheet and try to make it look like this. Please. It's very important that you fill this form correctly. 40% of your score comes from this form. Next step, next slide. So tab 2, once you fill out tab 1, you're going to have your brand's average on there. You're going to carry that forward here to tab 2. So you're going to have your brand, you're going to have your category, and you're going to have your discount average. This is your average discount. This is what you're going to use to enter into Bidstamp. This form, you are going to enter it, and this form is what I am going to verify that you enter correctly in Bidstamp. You are not going to be able to print this from Bidstamp to verify your own data entry. If there are errors, DIR has the right to correct them based on your spreadsheet. So, but it's better if you do it. Take your time, make it right, please. Now, how do you handle the VAR products? You will identify in Bidstamp the VAR items that you are proposing and what discount you are proposing. Not the volume discount that DIR already negotiated, the discount that you are proposing in addition to, okay? These are all samples, so don't worry about the numbers. And then if you are doing a complete solution software, then you can enter it as a total package and what that average discount it is, okay? So this is going to encompass tab 2. It's going to be a combination of tab 1 and 5. Because if you are bidding both packages. Now, can you do just tab 1, just regular software? Yes, not a problem. You can do both, not a problem, okay? But this is the document you're gonna need to make sure it works in order for you to enter this into Bidstamp. Try not to make this average discount links, type it in. Because sometimes if you're trying to gather and lines are changing on tab 1, it's going to affect this table. So type it in your average discount so that you can make sure they're correct, and I can make sure it's correct in Bidstamp when it's calculating your evaluation score. Okay, next slide. So when you go into Bidstamp, you're gonna see this screen. You're going to create your pricing sheet. This is what I already done for you, okay? So you're going to go in there and you're going to enter the category, okay? Enter the brand, and the product description is your functional description, your functional category. Under product number, everything you enter should be NA, because this is an average. You're not doing individual products here. You're just listing the brand, the type, the average. And then you're gonna enter the discount over here. If you're a reseller, click reseller. If you're a manufacturer, click manufacturer. Okay, under product number, all you need is NA. This 1, 2, 3 was just a sample. We were trying to see if you could enter NA or not. Yes, you can. Because that piece does not need to be there, but the system requires it. So I had to put it there, okay? So the category is software, is a SaaS. The brand, the description is your functionality. Click software, manufacturer, reseller, and then put on your discount from your package number 2 from the average discount per brand. This should be a simple entry. Every line, every brand, every average, so that the system can calculate. Bidstamp will not let you submit your response if your pricing is not in, so that you know. Okay, so it has to be entered. And DIR will not be able to do this for 200 vendors. So please do it Take your time. It's worth doing it right the first time. Next slide. So now you got your tab 3 is your service. The service is very simple. You're gonna enter it all in tab 3. It will be evaluated. It will be reviewed by detail to make sure you don't have any professional services that are not supposed to be in there, to make sure your services are related to software, not any specific software, but to software. And it does not need to be in Bitstamp, only on tab 3. And the spreadsheet is very detailed and very simple to look. Again, do not change formulas and do not change the format, and don't create a tab for every service. Then tab 4 is your volume discount. Is also does not go into Bitstamp, but it has to be entered so that we can evaluate it. And the volume discounts is those products that I told you that the more you get, the more discounts you get your packages. Like sometimes it's by user, sometimes by license, sometimes. So this is where that goes. Or if you're going to do an aggregate sell discount to a DIR customer, you can also enter that here. Now, tab 5A, very, very, very important tab, because it's also going to be carried over to the tab 2, where you're going to enter into Bitstamp, like I mentioned earlier. Okay, so I'm going to go show you some pictures of tab 5A. Follow the instructions. Okay, when you enter into Bitstamp, identify the brand and as a VAR, because other vendors are going to bid that same brand, but not VAR. So I need to make sure that when I look into the analysis, I can see the difference. Okay, next slide. All right, so this is what you see, tab 5A. Now, again, if you are a volume added reseller for these companies, for these manufacturers, the published discount level information, you are familiar with this. You've seen it. You know how it works because you do this all the time. DIR licensing agreement for Adobe, Microsoft, Novell has these published discount levels agreed upon. Your DIR additional discount is what goes on this column right here, the blank column, okay? So when DIR looks at this, what you put in this last column is what you're gonna carry over to the tab 2 to enter into Bitstamps. There's only gonna be one number here. And I know some of you says, but Microsoft has a ton of discounts for different products. Yes, but when it comes to the volume license program, that discount is already considered when they give you our level D cost. And so you are just gonna apply to whatever those manufacturer pricing is to you, the additional discount that you are going to give our customers based on our volume. Okay, I hope this makes sense. It's simple. I know there's a lot of issues with a lot of different discounts, but trust me, we've done this a lot. And you just put this additional discount here. There's a lot of negotiation and a lot of pieces that got to come together for the VAR contracts. And DIR is not going to award individual contracts for different manufacturers. We are going to award a contract for a response. If a vendor bid regular software and VAR software, and they make it to the negotiations phase, they're going to get a contract for all of those items they have responded and for. Okay, DIR does not know if we're going to have only one Microsoft provider or one Adobe provider. You asked me that question. At this point, DIR is going to evaluate all the responses, and not until we complete our evaluation, now we're going to make decisions as to how many contracts we're going to award per brand, or how many contracts we're going to award for the VAR, or if we're going to separate the VAR into different markets. At this point, all you need to do is provide your response. DIR will come up with all of these other issues during the negotiation process. We are going to evaluate responses, and we are going to make the best value decision for the state of Texas. And we will not know that until we have your response and we do our evaluation. Okay, next slide. So package 2 for the product pricing sheet. Yes, currently we have a brand list from last year. Yes, you will update that product list to the current volume program product list. You are not going to create individual tabs for each brand, Adobe, Microsoft, or Lovell. You are not going to change the formulas, but you are going to double check the formulas when you copy and paste. You are not going to change the spreadsheet format. And you're going to make sure that the brand name and the discount go into the tab 2 in order for you to put it into bid stamp. Next slide. So here's what we've done. I have revised the current portion of 5B. These products right here are old products. Yes, you're going to list the new products. I have added the discount so that now it makes sense. You are going to get a volume list price discount already from the manufacturer based on the DIR volume agreement. That number goes here. You are going to put your discount here, and then the DIR price will automatically generate with the formula. Okay, so this discount is not the manufacturer plus yours. No, this is just yours. When the manufacturer provides you with a list price, that is already accounting the discount we negotiated with them for these products. Next slide. The same for Microsoft. These are old numbers, old, you're just gonna need to update it. Change it to the new product list. Next slide. And here's the Novell. I have updated these. There will be with addendum 1. You will list the new products, the new product number, the new list volume prices, your discount, and it calculates itself. And we will evaluate each one of these spreadsheets. We will evaluate price. You will enter everything into bid stamp on an average discount for all the products. Okay, next slide. All right, now we're going to talk about the mandatory submissions. I can see that the questions are getting bigger, and there's a lot of them, so we will try to respond to all of them. There are some questions that I already noticed. I will have to wait for legal to answer. Some of these I cannot answer them, so be patient. They will be on an addendum, but we'll answer as many as we can. Okay, so respondents must provide the items listed below. Exhibit A must be signed. Again, there's some questions about ink signature versus electronic signatures. Exhibit A has to have an ink signature. If your company, your corporate puts it through DocuSign or Sign Now or electronic, those that have the identification signatures on the top, that is acceptable. Okay, that answers one of your questions. Cancel contracts. Again, if a contract is canceled, you will list it, regardless why. No matter what, you will list it. Okay. Any exceptions to our terms and conditions will be listed on this form. Some of you are asking questions, what kind of exceptions? Do we add our exceptions at the end? No. If you want an exception for this contract, you will enter now. You cannot change your mind and add more later. So review Appendix A from Package 3 very carefully. List every exception that you have. Follow the directions on the form. Fill in the form. After evaluation, when you make it to negotiations, those exceptions are going to be evaluated by legal, and you and legal and your contract negotiator will discuss them, but you cannot add after the fact. So whatever exceptions you have, you do it now. If you don't submit them now, I'm assuming you like everything. Also, keep in mind, excessive exceptions might disqualify you from negotiations because we might not have the time, okay? Exhibit B, history and experience. We talked about this a lot. Make sure you follow the form, you fill in the form correctly. Don't confuse the information, make it clear. 5 pages, 5 pages, okay? Contract mark, yeah, that's because I don't want a history book. So just give us what we need to evaluate you, okay? Marketing plan, you're gonna get your 5 pages plus any service level agreement that you want to attach. The hub form, you already got your information how to do that. Your VPAT, your release of liability, and your EDGA certification form. Next slide. Vendor accessibility, certification off premises. If you are going to have auto insurance, you don't need to send Exhibit I. But if you are not going to fulfill that auto insurance requirement, you need Exhibit I. Otherwise, when it comes to negotiations, you already lost your options, huh? Exhibit K, this is a form that is required at for a certain product. Not everybody needs one if you are simply a COTS reseller. But if you develop a product that's now COTS, that may require some things later, you might need to do this. So just read the form, get familiar with it. You might need it, you might not. If you think you need it, submit it. If you don't, that's fine too, okay? Now, manufacturer letters. This is important, folks. Very important. I cannot award a brand to you to sell to DIR customers if you are not an authorized reseller for that product. These letters must be signed. Email is no good. These letters must have the corporate logos. They cannot be handwritten. They cannot be an email. They have to be manufacturer authorization letters for each brand that you are providing. We don't need, we can't have a blanket letter for all brands. So we can't have a letter that says, oh, so-and-so can sell all the brands under this person's, you know, say under the Amazon thing. No, we cannot do that. We need individual letters for individual brands that you are responsible and authorized to sell, okay? Don't forget to sign all the addendums. Don't forget to submit your package 2 itemized price sheet. If you do not, and it's in bid stamp, we are gonna have a problem because I have nothing to evaluate without your pricing sheet, okay? And your reference forms, let's talk about reference again. Vendors cannot submit reference information for DIR to call their customers. Customers have to send the reference forms to DIR. And if they want to get a phone call from us, they will then request it via email and provide us their information. So again, vendors cannot provide customers information for DIR to call, okay? Vendor reference forms must be submitted to the customers. Customers will turn around and send that form via the RFO email in the reference form. And if they can't fill it out, they can request a call. Those are the options. Next. So there are vendors that have a very high volume of brands. Like I told you, DIR has over 800 brands under active contracts right now. If we count the inactive contract, over 1,200. So we do know that there's a volume here. So VPATs and letters of authorization might be too much to be entering into bid stamp 1 at a time. Bid stamp does not allow zip files to be entered, to be uploaded. No zip files are allowed. So you either do it one at a time by brand, or you have other options. And here's what I have worked out for you. One option, you can embed the VPAT and the letters by the brand on package 2. Okay, be careful. The package 2 might get too big and you won't be able to upload it because of size. So be careful there. But it can be done if you don't have a lot of brands. Another, you can create a separate spreadsheet and embed the documents alphabetically by brand with the VPAT and the letter of authorization next to each other. Upload to Bitstamp, you're good. Now, let's say you still have too high of a volume for either of these options, right? So you can upload one at a time. You can embed it in package 2. You can create a new spreadsheet and embed it in that, or you can create a zip files of all your documents, letters of authorization and VPATs for your brands by brand name with your company name in case the files get lost. We know who it belongs to. But remember, the email cannot exceed 25 megabytes per email. So you might have to break those zip files into different emails. They have to be sent to the RFO email address and a zip file. DIR will upload these zip files to your response, but you have to submit them on or before April 28th. If you send us an email outside of the RFO email box with a zip file outside of the RFO email box, we cannot do anything with that. You must submit these zip files through the RFO email box on or before April 28th. Okay, next slide. So, authorized letters, I'm over here, we're just breaking it down just a little bit more because this is important. So they have to be signed. They have to come from the manufacturer or the publisher, okay? They must be submitted with your response proposals. They must be signed. VAR resellers, volume program resellers will have to send us a special authorization volume license from the publisher along with their response. It is very important that these documents are submitted. Cannot award a product to a vendor that is not authorized to sell. So these forms are critical. Make sure they are in your response. Next slide. All right, some good news for everybody. And if you want to jump, this is a good time to do it. DIR is not going to require any service level agreements, license agreements, EULAs to be provided with this RFO during this response period. So we are removing all references to EULAs, license, and service level agreements for software under this RFO. Vendors may be required on the base-to-base cases to provide these documents during the negotiation phase of this solicitation if required. So please note that any additional agreements may not conflict with the DIR contract terms and conditions, okay? But for now, the volume has gone way down. We have determined that we do not need you to provide these documents with your response to this RFO, okay? Next, rejection of responses. DIR has sole discretionary authority and reserves the right to reject any and all responses as a result of this RFO. We don't do that very often, but if we have to, we have the authority to do it. Just make sure you're familiar with section 3.10 of the RFO. Next. All right, Tom, take it over.
Well, okay, we've come to 2:40, and what we'd like to do here is take a little bit of a break. It's 2:40 Central Time, so let's come back at 2:50. This will give you an opportunity to put your questions in the Q&A box, and again, we are logging these. We will do our best to get through them. and get your questions answered. And let's go ahead and take a break until 2:50. We'll circle back and we will start going through questions. A couple of things to remember is reference the RFO section number and page number with your submitted questions. Remember, today's questions are unofficial until they are posted on the ESBD through an addendum. You can also submit additional questions through the bid stamp portal as well. So we'll see you back in about 9 minutes.
Tom, can you hear me?
Yes, just got back. Yep.
Okay, just 1 second. I kind of want to go over one question before we move forward, okay?
Okay, well, it's at 2:50, so if we're all back, why don't we go ahead and proceed on? So go right ahead.
All right. Due to the time constraint, we're going to answer some of these questions. Also, I have noticed that most of these questions have been answered, but we will make them official through the addendum. However, I want to do one thing. A lot of you says that the link to the ESBD from Bitstamp is not working. I want you to understand that sometimes the controller's office, due to engines, like they like Google Chrome more than they like other engines. So it is best for you to log on to the website, controllers.texas.gov, using Google Chrome, access the purchasing menu, and log into the ESBD through there, and then search for the RFO. It is a lot simpler. It's very hard to guarantee links working from different locations. So we will try to give you the direct link, but it is gonna work for you 100% of the time if you go through the controller's website direct. Take it over, Tom.
Just to kind of tag on to what you had said, Vanya, I saw another question answered several times about will the presentation and will this recording be made available? And the answer to that is yes. A copy of the presentation as well as a recording to a YouTube link that we will post out on the YouTube channel will be made available through the addendum that Vanya will publish. So the presentation and recording will be made available. So this is also your time to put any additional questions into the Q&A box right now. As Vanya had said, we have these questions recorded through Zoom, and we will answer questions via an addendum. So go ahead, put your questions in, and we are recording these. So Vanya, if we want to just continue on and maybe do the wrap up.
Vanya, are you there? I think you might be muted.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
there you are.
Sorry,
Yeah.
guys. There we go. There we go. All right. So a reminder, question and answers from today will be unofficial until we post it on the SPD. Any changes or additional information regarding this RFO will be posted on the SPD. So please, it's the responsibility of each one of you to keep looking at the ESPD for changes. Okay. Next. Okay. Again, solicitation schedule has not changed. All deadlines for question is March 21st. All questions must be submitted through Bitstamp only. Just a heads up, I am going to be out of the country. So do not email me questions, because if you do, it will just return to you. All questions are going to be answered through the Bitstamp. Management is monitoring the Bitstamp questions. So please make sure that you submit your questions through Bitstamp. Okay. Next. And oh, there you go. Some of you know my name and some of you know how to contact me. Thank you so very much for being here. And I look forward to us getting through this solicitation process. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your afternoon.